Blackbirds singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbirds singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see all your life. You were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light of a dark black night.
Good afternoon, ladies, and welcome to SoulFood Books. Hello. I love having friends here because they're like, all right, speak a little more so people can hear you. First of all, thank you so much for coming tonight. One of the reasons why we built SoulFood was for community, and so that people who didn't necessarily have a voice had a platform to be able to share that voice. And if any of you guys actually ever look at local authors, not a lot of platform for local authors, and so that was one of our big missions, was to be able to give local writers a chance to be able to have a stage to come in and be able to speak their message and be able to further their work. A little while ago, Heather, who is Heather Kyle over there, who has been actually incredible holding a post here, had this great idea to come up with a group of women authors to come together. And she happened to be talking to Christy Michelle, who is one of the founders of Eastside Women in Business. And thus a incredible project was born to bring 11 women authors to the stage for a group who is interested in authorship, who's interested in that creative spark that we all share. And so it was born. And as we called women authors and we were like, okay, we've got this cool thing going on and we love you and you're diverse and you're rich and your experience is amazing and please come share that. Everybody we called jumped to that and was so excited to get a chance to really make those grassroots connections that really changed the world. So before I introduce the authors, what I'd like to do is if Lauren Archer could come up, and she is also the co-founder of Eastside Women in Business, and kind of let you know what that's all about. Thanks for coming. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Hi. What an honor to be here with a bunch of visionary women and leaders in our community. Eastside Women in Business, we're coming up on our 2nd anniversary. founded by Christy Michelle. And when I found out about her idea, I couldn't help but want to back it up and support it and promote it. And our core values are very much in alignment with what everybody's been doing here at Soul Food, and with the event tonight especially, supporting women, but not just individually, but collaboratively. One of our main principles is non-competitive networking and collaboration. So when we have several different people from a particular niche in business, we challenge them to say, hey, why don't you find out some ways you can work together? Let's leverage our connections. Let's leverage our knowledge and work together as a community. And so we've built up some great relationships, lots of wonderful business. And this event tonight is another example of that. And as you think about writing your own book, you may want to consider, look around in the room and connect with some other people, some other women, and find out how you can collaborate and network and support one another, either joining forces on a book or supporting one another in a writer's group, or helping to promote or cross-promote. So that's what this is all about. It's kind of the Aquarian Age philosophy. Yeah. And a lot of what Soul Food is about is really bringing like-minded people together to kind of seed a greater vision for where we're going as a community. So if you want more information about Eastside Women in Business, come see Christy. We have a meeting the first Wednesday of every month. It's open to all women, even if you're not a woman in business, because we build friendships and relationships. So the first Wednesday of every month, we have a luncheon up at Russell's in Bothell. And then the third Tuesday every month, we have an after-hour social at Desert Fire in Redmond. And then we have special events after that. We have a big, big gala coming up. I just have to put one little seed plant one little seed for that. That's going to be September 26th at the Woodmark Hotel, and we do awards. So also talk to us, because we give 5 awards every year. Most of them are for our members, but we have one award that's open to anyone in the community, any woman who's making a significant contribution to professional women, especially in Seattle's East Side, and that is called the Queen of Hearts Award. So if you would like to nominate someone, you can nominate, and then that's also going to be open for the public to vote on. So get involved, come meet us. We'd love to have you be part of our group, and we want to say a big, big thank you to Soul Food and Sarah and Heather for setting up this event. So thank you.
Okay, so to start off this evening, the first author who I'd like to introduce is somebody who I've actually gotten a chance to know for about the last 4 or 5 years. And one of the things that I've really been impressed with by her is her diversity in the way that she walks through life. And it was great to get to read some of the bios of people that I've known for a really long time. And one of the things I didn't know was that she's got a really good, solid background in nursing and psychotherapy and music and dance and movement therapy. She's also, the way that I've known her has been very much through her passion for earth-based spirituality and shamanism, which leads me to the book that she's written, which is called Practical Shamanism, which for my line of work, when I have a lot of people who are like, okay, so I heard this thing. It's called shamanism. What the hey? And I'm like, well, all right, I've got a book about this. And so Sheila has also been somebody who, we have a reader's corner of different practitioners who come in, and she's somebody who comes in on the first and third Thursday of the month, and she does something called it's a shamanic tarot, and I actually haven't run across anybody else who does that. But yeah, so please put your hands together in warm welcome for Miss Sheila Baker.
Yeah, maybe that's a nice cue to turn off your cell phones or put them on mute or something. So the first thing that I'm going to do this evening is I'm going to set sacred space. So if you've got your legs crossed, go ahead and put your feet on the floor. Feel your sit bones. And you can do it eyes open or eyes closed. It's really up to you. So just take a deep breath and exhale. And then come to stillness. spirit guides and allies of the East, the place of dawn and new beginnings, where eagle soars and owl is able to look into the deep, dark woods. We ask that you guide us and teach us and show us the way. Aho. Spirit guides and allies of the South, the place of trust and innocence and childlike playfulness, where coyote frolics and snake keeps her belly low to the ground, but her senses ever aware. And grandmother spider shows us how to weave it all together from within. We ask for the good medicine of the South. Aho. Spirit guides and allies of the West, the place of watery fluidity, and all the creatures that live there, known and some still unknown, the place of great mystery on this planet, and bear medicine that shows us how to walk in isolation and come together at time of desire and co-creation. We ask that you guide us and teach us and show us the way. Aho. Spirit guides and allies of the North, the vast expanse of whiteness, the deep look within time, the time of introspection and hibernation and reflection. We give thanks for the gifts of the ancestors. We give thanks for ancestral wisdom. Aho. Sky Father, the place of illumination, the planetary allies, the sun and the moon. We give thanks for support from above. Aho. Earth Mother, upon whom we walk, the place of the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, the creepy crawlers, the swimmers, the winged ones, the standing people, the trees, and the rock nation. We give thanks for your ability to take that which we no longer need, compost it, and bring it back into sustenance and nurturance. We give thanks for support from below. Aho. Creator, the great hoop of life that binds us all. We give thanks for the ability to spiral into source and bring that which we find there back into illumination. We give thanks for imagination, creation, and manifestation. And most of all, we give thanks for being held. Aho. Aho. So what I have, just one second. And because I came from Canada, I'm a tea granny, so I'll have a sip. So what I've just done for y'all is set sacred space, which sets us in a different place from the mundane world. So now we're in an environment where we are protected. Our Creator has our back. And we have an open-heartedness so that we can walk in safety and in pleasure. The writing of this book came about because my students were talking to people in other countries, and also they were talking to their friends, and they asked, well, how can we do this? And I wrote a first little teeny weeny little book, about 42 pages, and it had a little drumming thing that went with it. And it got itself to England and to Greece, and I was so excited. And the title of it was Gateway to the Soul. What I had left off was imagination is gateway to the soul. And we are all creative beings, and shamanism is one of the most creative ways to walk in the world. We all have spirit guides, power animals, totems, who are available to us if we have the ability to ask and be willing and open to receive, and then to take action. So in this particular book, what I did was it's called Practical Shamanism, and here, I'll just let you go ahead. You're welcome. So what I did was I took folks on journeys, first of all to find their own spirit guide, and then to the 7 cardinal directions, and then to some helpers, some 5 archetypes that over the course of my practice I developed. Angeles Arian, who is a wonderful teacher and a cross-cultural shaman, offered these in 4 of the 5 of them in a book called The Fourfold Path, which if you haven't read, I really encourage you to do that. So I take you on a trip to the visionary. Well, that's you. because it's your vision, it's your journey, it's your request and your information that's coming. And then the enlightened spiritual warrior. And then there is always a lesson in every journey, so there's a teacher. And then there's always a healing, so there's a healer. And then what was missing in what I continued to do and what I came up with my students was that there was something missing about, okay, that's great, we've taken a matter to spirit and we brought spirit back into matter, and now what? So that for me was the magician. So we look at journeys and we go through them and we listen. And the beauty of doing this in a group is that when I do it, I have my limited little vision. When I ask somebody else, my vision gets this big. When I continue to ask, pretty soon I have 360. So I can look all around it. I can hear things that I can't see. And so there's a huge, beautiful part of journeying in circle. And what part of it is that you get the information from someone else, something that you might not have heard about. And so I wrote a book. I wrote that book because of that. It comes with a CD. And one of the folks who's not here tonight, and I'm really sad about that, was my editor, whose name is Kim Pearson. She's local, she's Issaquah, she does ghost writing, she is amazing. And we did a lot of collaboration on this book, so I really want to put her into the framework here this evening. And the other thing is I want to just, having set sacred space, I'd like to keep it open for the rest of the evening, and then I'll do my best to remember to come and close it, but should I not, somebody let me know. And so we'll be in sacred space for the rest of the evening. I look forward to meeting you. I'm excited that people are interested in shamanism and also interested in writing their own material. So, aho, blessings, and thank you for coming. It's an honor.
This is our youngest Eastside Women in Business member right here. The next author that I'd like to bring up is somebody who is incredibly diverse in her capacity to write. It's been quite a bit of an incredible ride and pleasure to get a chance to work with this next author. Her name is Sandra Rodman, and what she's going to be presenting today is the Right Brain Aerobics. A little bit about Sandra is that she's worked for quite a long time with different Fortune 500 companies, so really has that ability to cross languages, just as many of us know in our personal life and in our business life. Boy, especially if you have to talk to anybody like about taxes or anything like that, you know, you have to have a specific language. And Sandra has really been able to encompass that and really be able to walk forward in that. Not only that, she is a successful playwright and musician and somebody who is amazing to talk about different forms of meditation and metaphysical aspects. So I would love to introduce Miss Sandra Rodman.
I don't know whose this is, but this is one of my most favorite subjects. Women's bodies, women's wisdom. The first time I was at SoulFood Books, it was on this subject, not business. The book I wrote in 2 weeks, and it's called The Gift, A Sensual Journey into Personal Alchemy. I did not write this book. I used my right brain. I just sat down and a book began to come in, and I wrote as fast as I could to keep up. But I'm from Fortune 500 companies, and I said, what is this? So I learned something very, very important. There's more than one way to write a book if you use your right brain. The last time I was here, I taught something called Ancient and Future Lineage Paths. That's going to be called the Book of Lineage Calls and the Book of Lineage Mappings. The time before, it was Star Talk, preparing for extraterrestrial communication. In the last 4 years, I've written 3 complete musicals, book, lyrics, and music. The gift plus the second gift, which I've not even had time to describe. And my dissertation, Right Brain Aerobics, and now Right Brain Express. This is the 5th version of these books. Now, the reason I'm giving you that context, I was still in Fortune 500 companies when I wrote The Gift and began to take in things metaphysically. It happened because I was doing right brain exercises, and I like to do them 2 or 3 hours a day. I left AT&T Wireless, and I had time on my hands, and I discovered some wonderful meditations, and I began to meditate. That's where this came from. There is a difference to me between writing something from passion and writing something that's really, really, really hard work. This took 2 years to translate all of the best in metaphysics, meditation, creativity. I've spent 40 years in the theater. Translate it all into, okay, when you're in the boardroom, you're going to use this little mental focus exercise. You're really going to do this. And in the last year, I really got to train university president, deans, and top executives in a corporation. And then I found out that this is scary. I didn't know that 2 volumes, thick volumes, would scare very senior executives. I'm now in my 6th translation into PowerPoint slides. This got written because I liked teaching meditation and creativity exercises and intuition, and I was having a blast when I discovered that all these ideas and books and things would come in all at once, all by myself. And then somebody called me who was a friend from Merrill Lynch, an IBM executive, and he'd left IBM, and he says, I saw this website that you put up called Right Brain Aerobics. He says, do you have any idea right now how many millions of dollars Right Brain Aerobics could be worth as a corporate training? And I said, no, Bill, this is woo-woo. This is airy-fairy. This is Tibetan meditation. He said, no, I'm sorry, this is millions. You just have to trust me. So I learned a very valuable lesson. There's 2 ways to write a book. One is from passion and the things that I want to write about. I love Star Talk. I teach Star Talk every day. That's what I love to do. My father was an astronomer and a meditator. We talked to Jupiter every day. I was just surprised when Jupiter started talking back. That's what got me. Whoa. Now they're all talking back. I have boxes of books, of notebooks, of material I just can't get to transcribe. But buried in here, I learned a lesson. The hard work opened up another part of me, compassion-wise. Who am I to judge people in corporations? I was a person in a corporation, and even though I went home and meditated, who am I to judge? I got to know a lot of very good people who wanted to do the right thing, but there wasn't another way to be. And because this one man, Bill Gallagher, stayed on me for 2 years, write that book, write that book, write that book. Get you a Bill Gallagher. Find someone who sees great value in something you're doing, and that book will get written really fast. Now, please don't come to me and tell me about your book, because I have this terrible right brain habit. If you tell me about your book, I'll start coming up with thousands of ideas about how we could get it published and how we could do this and where we could put it. And I have a publishing company. I had to create that too. So if you tell me, I'm going to want to do that for you. I cannot help myself. And what I'm trying to do is create other people who can't help themselves. So this is 600 pages because I had to do in this edition lots of white space and pictures. It's like right brain business for dummies, because I found that the little narrow print was scary. But in this day and age, this is hard. So I sat down worked regularly, and taught. That's the other thing I learned. If you're going to write a book on something, like the wonderful practical shamanism, this is another kind of sneaky practical shamanism. They do intuition. I have bankers meditating on the train. We call it mental focus and visualization. I'm giving them a language. And the new, I forgot the other book. You will not believe that some of the exercises in the other book were when I was meditating with Mary Magdalene. The other book is called Take Your Right Brain to Work. I'm not kidding. These simple exercises translated means you can sneak into work with shamanism, use it because I'm giving you the language to translate it into. And in these days in business, the words right brain, creative thinking, even the theatrical exercises that I used when I was an actor. Acting paid for college. I had a math scholarship and an acting scholarship. I put both in here. That's the whole idea. We have to mainstream what we're doing. Soul Food Books is an outstanding example of this. I wanted to do Soul Food Books in New York. Years ago, I had a psychic partner, and I knew a lot of psychics in New York. Well, I had an executive job, and they didn't get this far. Gotcha. They didn't get this far, but the combination of music, art, total open space, metaphysics, but you'll find great psychology books, and you may not know this as an author. You can become a vendor here. You can become an official vendor member, and I want to tell you, I've had fantastic results of getting calls from people because they saw my materials. So what I have, the materials, the rest about Right Brain Aerobics is in the front shelf when you come in, and I do recommend considering becoming a vendor here. And I was only kidding when I said, don't talk to me about your book. So, thank you.
It's amazing once you become a parent again, how you remember how to do everything one-handed. It's awesome. Okay, the next author who I'm excited to introduce is actually somebody who I love to have come in the store because there's this table right over there, and she sets up camp, and she's like this crazy, brilliant, like glowing ball of just gentleness, and has this remarkable way of communicating with each other, with people that are around her. And when I was reading about her biography, she has traveled all over the place, so has that ability to make those connections with people, even if she doesn't know them. And her book, The Toddler Way, I got a chance to read a little while ago, and I was really struck by it. I have a background in working with kids, and I'm always a sucker for somebody who sees the specialness in kids and how to walk through that as a parent or a caregiver. And so before I go too on about it, because I'm really good at that, I'd like to introduce Miss Lita Hamilton.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so hi everybody. I am a mother to a 1, 3, and 6-year-old, all boys. I'm also a businesswoman. I run a radio show here in Seattle on the I'm Thankful Network. And I'm a spiritual seeker as well. And I wrote the book. I'm going to do a little reading from the book. I wrote the book because I went from being a corporate mom, making a very good salary and great bonuses, then to being a full-time mom. And neither one fulfilled me. And so I started reading every spiritual book I could get my hands on. I was looking for answers. I was looking for the secret to inner peace, fulfillment, and all of them were wonderful, all those books that I read, but they were all written by men, and none of them had a 3-year-old or a 1-year-old. And so I finally said, you know what, I'm going to write my own damn book. And I put the laptop up on the kitchen countertop, and I just started observing my children because I thought, you know what, I spend so much time with these kids. Surely they can be showing me something about what it means to have inner peace, what it means to live in the moment and to be authentic and just pure and the joy. and also the rage that they exhibit. It's all honest. And so in between the stir fry, and I swear I wrote this book with a baby on my boob, and doing the laundry and changing the poopy diapers, I wrote The Way of the Toddler, the craziness of modern motherhood, and the spiritual lessons I learned from my Zen masters in diapers. So I'm just going to share a very short passage. Is a modicum of balance even possible when you have small children running around your feet, tugging at your pant legs? There is a reason why Jesus Christ was a man, and Buddha, and Krishna, and Muhammad, and the Dalai Lama. Correct me if I am wrong, but the great avatars of history all seem to be men. How easy it must be to reach enlightenment if you don't have little lungs screaming at you from the next room. I often think of those Tibetan monks in their mountaintop monasteries meditating and chanting from sunup to sundown. It is no wonder they are wise and enlightened beings. They have it easy. I would like to see one of them come and trade places with me for a day and see how much inner peace he has retained after 12 hours of ninja fighting with a 3-year-old while picking up and putting down a 1-year-old about 57 million times. My guess is that it would take about 4 weeks back at the monastery to fully recover from his one day with my 2 little angels. However, I have read enough self-help books to know that there is never going to be any balance in my life, not lasting balance at any rate, as long as I see my children as impediments to personal growth. I have them, I wanted them, I chose them, and they chose me. We are in this together. We are wrapped in a karmic dance, and we will continue to play out the roles we came here to play out. Buttons pushed are opportunities to learn, to grow, to transcend what has previously brought us to our knees. However, remembering that in the heat of the moment is entirely another thing, which is why it helps enormously to have some time set aside each day for reflecting, writing, meditating, and giving all of the frustrations and struggles over to God. And then, like the turtle who eventually won the race, we realize that we are indeed conquering all that has previously held us back. Well, that is the intention anyway. So I just have to say that my friend has driven from Idaho 6 hours to see me here tonight and do this reading. And I have to share a little story before I get off the stage about what it means to be a mom and a businesswoman and a spiritual seeker. I love this place, by the way. I really do love SoulFood books. So I have a babysitter tonight. It has allowed me to be here. And at 4 o'clock this afternoon, she was going to take my kids to the park so that I could get ready to come here. And my 6-year-old didn't want to go. He's saying that he hates babysitters and he doesn't want any more babysitters. And I literally had to force him into the car to come here. And he was crying and he was screaming and he was telling me I was a bad mother. And so he left. They got out of the house, and so what do, you know? So I sat down and I went to my journal, because that's where I go. And I wrote out what it means to trust and have faith in something that's bigger than yourself. And that's what this journey is really all about. So thank you so much for having me here tonight.
I love that. My mom was a yogi, and so whenever we would, she would talk about when people would come in and they would come into the ashram with all of these like white flowing robes, and I'd be running around in my diaper, and she'd be like, "Oh, honey, if you can't meditate with the kids running around, then you're not doing your job." So, right on. For our next author, I got a chance to work with her maybe about 6 months ago, 6 months to a year ago, and what she has to write about is, funny enough, probably one of the biggest cultural taboos of talking out loud that we have. A little bit about her is that she'd grown up in Japan and ended up having this incredible life with her folks and learning all of these different things, and then came over to the States to go to Yale, and then ended up getting her master's of divinity, and ended up working in the hospice area, which, you know, it's like, that's kind of a scary one. We have a finite time on this planet, and I always have this amazing respect for people who can walk into those situations, because as all of us know, we don't really want everybody to be here for a really long time, and we really like people, and so walking through that is a really incredibly, can be a really incredibly challenging and difficult space to walk into. When I got a chance to read Maria's book was when somebody in my own life was just about ready to pass away. And it was incredible to be able to have the shift of perspective of like, oh, that's where we all do this. We all get to have this empowering moment of like, this is how we walk through it. And there are so many ways to walk through this, actually aptly titled This Last Adventure of Life. Was her first novel, and she just came out with a new novel called Most Important Day of Your Life. Are you ready? So before I geek out anymore, I would like to introduce Miss Maria Dancing Hard.
My heart is full. It's really nice to be here. I want to thank Sarah and all of you just for being here. It's like awesome. Where to begin? I didn't really set out to write a book or to own a business, but it's sort of evolved. You know how life sometimes just happens and keeps happening. And what happened to me was I was a parish minister for 10 years. I kind of followed my dad's footsteps, my parents' footsteps, since they had been missionaries in Japan for many years. I didn't stay with their church. They were Lutheran missionaries. I moved to the UCC church, where we have the distinction of ordaining the first woman in the United States back in 1860-something. Anyway, however, doing church work just wasn't feeding my soul. It was like being in this box. And after 10 years, I finally remember distinctly asking God, you know, there's got to be more joy in ministry. I knew I was called to some kind of ministry and spiritual work, but I was not happy in the church, especially the administrative part of it. So one day in a meditation, the word hospice literally came to me. And you know how sometimes when you hear something and then you hear an echo and like the books are rustling across the way on the bookcase, and I'm going, pay attention. So as soon as I came out of meditation, I went and called one of the hospices that I knew, and I kind of started the search process. And it took 6 months, but I did find group health hospice opened up for me. And it was just a window. It was just a few hours of bereavement work. But then you know how one thing leads to another, and the spiritual counselor was leaving to write her book, and so then I got to do her job for a while, and I found that I was just taking it like fish to water. And I was receiving joy from hospice work, because you'd think joy, you know, in death work, but for me, the variety of what I was able to do and what I was learning from everyone and the depth of the level of conversation that I was going with people, it was like totally feeding my soul. It was my thing. So I continued to do that for, 6 years or so. And then I got this inkling that I guess I was reading a big book called Spiritual Literacy, and it was like, I could write something like this. It was a potpourri of all kinds of material, spiritual material from all over the world. And I'd been gathering a lot of material to share at team meetings and to inspire people. So I had, you know, part of the book already in my car, in my office. And so I started compiling it. My daughter was a big help. She's a writer. She's the real writer. She's an inspiration. She writes fantasy fiction. She's got 300 and some pages already going on her book. But this book came together, self-published, while I was living on Whidbey Island after about 4 years of just gathering the material. And the biggest part of this book was going and finding permission from everybody who had written the material that I wanted to put in here, because as soon as you have 50 words or more, you need to get permission. but there is some beautiful material in here. So I hope that you'll have a look. My website, by the way, is changewithcourage.com. And this book is in the library. It was first self-published. Then a few years ago, Findhorn Press of Scotland finally picked it up. I wanted a publishing house, and they picked it up. They haven't helped me get it out that widely yet. I'm hoping one day it is going to take off, and I'm going to get to go to Scotland because my daughter's going to school in Scotland starting in the fall. So we'll see. You know, I'll finally get to Findhorn, and maybe I'll put a little fire under them. Then there was even a third edition that got published in Australia that looks, I mean, it's similar to this, although it has a totally different look on the front of it. Well then, after publishing these books, I thought things would just happen, you know, but they don't. And you have to work really hard. And with a topic like death, you have to really work hard, and I don't think I'm succeeding. So tell you what, I today decided that I'm going to start doing weddings. Weddings to make the money so I can fund my death and dying and grief work. So if you know of anybody who wants a wedding, I'm going to promote myself as a bilingual, bicultural, interfaith, minister who does weddings. And then, see, that's not only going to bring the money back, that's going to bring the joy back. Because some days when you're doing not only death and dying work, but when you're trying to promote death and dying work, you can get kind of depressed. Because you go to, you know, the other day I went to a nursing home, and finally about 6 or 7 women were there, well, from the assisted living side. But, you know, the volunteer coordinator didn't pay me, didn't even purchase anything, so it was a total commitment on my part, you know, a total volunteer commitment, and I've been doing a lot of that, and I'm sick of it. So I think I need to talk to Sandra for a while and learn how to raise money. So then, most recently, I just published this book. This is a very small book. This is more me. And one friend said, Maria, this is your preface to the other book. But this is one called The Most Important Day of Your Life. Are you ready? And it's got a lot of the lessons that I learned from hospice. So it's not a death and dying book so much as how to live your life, learning from those who are dying, because they have so much to teach us. They are real, they're like children. You know, they're so honest and so open, a lot of them, that you really learn a lot about life. And one more comment about this book is that a gal who does similar work down in Southern California, she took one look and she said, yes, we need to connect beauty and death again. Beauty and mystery and all the beautiful parts of death, because death is simply graduation into our next chapter of life, you know? It's not the end. We think here in this culture so much that, oh, you know, then it's all over. No, it's just the beginning. And actually, I wanted to share one story. The gal who gave me the title to this book, The Last Adventure of Life, she one day said to me, she said, I'm looking forward to the last adventure of life. And she died in such a remarkable way. They used to gather in the Mariners games. All her family would gather and talk together, party together. One night they all left. She had stopped eating. She still had her oxygen and fluids going. She had stopped eating, and it was about 2-3 weeks into that. She was ready to go. She said goodbye to everyone. She made one call to one daughter. It was kind of like a good night call, but tinged with goodbye. 1 hour later, she took her last breath. So death can be that conscious and that loving, especially when you don't fear it. And I felt in my heart, I knew that this woman did not fear death. She was so curious and so ready, you know. And I hope we can all be that way when we die. So one more thing is that I've developed, I love the body-mind-spirit approach to life. And so it's hard sometimes to be in a hospice where I still do a little hospice work with group health, and it's very medical model, you know, very pills-oriented. Well, I love the essential oils. I love music, meditation, you name it. You know, I'm even into the Nikken stuff now, the magnetics, and the newest thing that's just on the market, if you want to come talk to me about it, I'm a distributor, 0-point frequency. This is a magic wand, and I kid you not, it will heal pain, it will heal whatever dis-ease is going on in your body. They have pendants, the whole 9 yards. But anyway, I've developed these soul bundles, I call them, or soul baskets, using a Japanese-style furoshiki to be your basket. So if you are interested in that, please have a look at soulbaskets.com, and that's where I have them displayed. And I'd love to have you call, and I could customize a gift basket for you. So that's one way I'm hoping that the funding will also increase in the days ahead. Thank you so much. And don't think you're going to make money writing a book. I just have to add that. Unless it becomes a bestseller, which it could, you know, but that's like winning the lottery.
Okay. What I wanted to do is just take a quick minute just to say two things before I introduce the next author. One, at the very end of this, all the authors are going to come up and we're going to have a question and answer period. So all of those like little burning questions that you have in your back of your brain, hold on to them because you'll have a panel of amazing ladies to be able to answer that. We also tonight have another local woman in business, and she's got some biomats that are right back in our children's section, and she is offering 15-minute free sessions back there. Alexandra just had one and has a really happy look. Sorry, I won't point at you. Yeah, sorry. Let me just point at you. Laying down. So let's see. Let me go back to my next one. Sorry, I got a little off track there. Okay. I love this. The next author is, I was really excited to have her come. I ended up missing when she came to talk last time, but when her book crossed my desk, I have this philosophy that there's a lot of people who try to write children's books because they think it's going to be easy, because we've got this funny perception of children not being very smart. So when I see a kid's book that comes across my desk that is simply beautiful, not simplistic, but simply beautiful, because sometimes that's really the hardest ones that I've seen to come out. I get really excited because I know that that is somebody who has an incredible amount of sensitivity and creativity. And in fact, when I went to her website, my favorite thing that was written on there is, I believe in creating the world in which I want to live in. And, oops. In everything and every thought, I endeavor to create beauty, peace, and love. Right on. That was so good. So I would love to introduce our next author who wrote the children's book, Baby, Schmet Horsfield. Please come up.
Hello. I'm very nervous. This is Baby. Hello. My friend Heather made this. So, Baby has one eye because it represents the heart that connects us all, and also the intuition that I feel that we need to teach our children about. It's interesting. I'm meant to be here in this moment. Everything that everyone has said so far is what I was going to say. I didn't set out to write a children's book. It wasn't my life dream to write a book. It just happens that when I had my baby 2.5 years ago now, I was a metalsmith artist before, and I had this brand new baby, and I was bursting at the seams with creative energy. And I had just watched the documentary called The Secret. And so I asked the universe, okay, what am I meant to do? What is my mission, my path, my purpose? Because I need to do something. Of course, I'm a new mother, so there wasn't too much that I could do. And I was nursing my son, and this little Baby character was dancing around in my head. And so when I was finished nursing and I laid him down to sleep because he slept a lot when he was first born, I just started drawing and drawing and drawing and drawing. And I had about 20 illustrations. So I at this point didn't know that I was writing a book. I just knew that I had to draw. And so I ended up putting this book together, which was quite difficult to write it when I had just these illustrations. But I think the main thing I would like to say is that I listened to spirit. I meditated, I did yoga, and through that, I feel like my path has been unveiling itself, and I've just been following that. And now I'm even doing little T-shirts and onesies with my characters on it. And now I'm actually writing 3 more books. It's turned into a series. And this time I'm actually writing it and then going to do the illustrations. So the next book will have an adventure story about who Baby is. So this is the book. And I'll just open the book up to one of the pages. Don't know which page I'm going to open it to. This one is the perfect one. It's community. Now, through this experience of writing this book, it's like I found pieces of my childhood, and I've done a full circle. My grandmother actually told me that she saw me as a writer and that I would be writing books one day. So she obviously knew something I didn't. And this actual illustration, I had a very best friend named Trinity, and her mom was my art teacher. And she drew children holding hands around a planet on her wall when we were maybe 13 years old. And I used to look at this drawing, and it gave me so much peace and so much hope and so much happiness. And I didn't know that. I just remembered that memory a few days ago. And that's where this illustration came from. And the whole process has been that way. It's just a full circle. And I guess I would urge everyone here tonight, instead of thinking, oh, I want to do this, or oh, I want to do that, really ask the universe and yourself what your soul purpose is and what your passion is and what your mission is that you're meant to do while you're on planet Earth. And when that is revealed to you, then it just, everything falls into place, and it's incredible. And that's what's happening to me right now. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful, supportive place to be. And I'm very excited about it. And at this point in time, I'm actually asking the universe to bring me somebody that can make handmade dolls with me. And these are my little T-shirts. So it's very exciting. Yeah. So it's very great. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, I would like to say one more thing, sorry. I'm doing an Baby petition for peace. When I was 12 years old, here's another full circle thing that's happening for me. When I was 12, I did a petition to save the rainforests, and I got 3,000 signatures. My science teacher helped me who to send it to, House of Representatives, Congress, and I got lots of letters back. I got Burger King to actually change all of their packaging to recycled material. So that was very exciting. Yes, it was huge for, being so young. Yeah, they gave me free Whoppers, 100 free Whoppers, which, was lunch for a year. At that time, I didn't know that I shouldn't be eating the hamburgers, but, But so now I'm doing an Baby petition for peace, and it's basically saying that Baby is the inner peace and the love and the innocence which is within us all, which we all need to get back to. And when I gave birth to my son, that's what I realized, is that if the president and Congress and the owner of Walmart and the CEO of BP and Exxon and all of those big cats, if they could hug their own inner baby and get back to what's important inside of their heart, if each and every one of us, everyone, could do that, we could have world peace. So that's what the Baby petition for peace is about, is encouraging each and every one of us to be responsible and to do our part to creating world peace. So you can go on to my website. I've set this up so you can fill out the form online, and it's ownbabyworld.com. So www.ownbabyworld.com, Own Baby's Petition for Peace. Sign up. Let me get as many signatures as I can and send an Own Baby book to all the important people that need to hug their inner Own Baby. Thank you.
The T-shirts and onesies are also right over there next to the Baby book. They're really cute. Yeah, pretty brilliant. The next author I'd like to bring up is somebody who has written this book right here. It's called The Artist's Journey. It's my favorite tagline. The Perfumed Pilgrim tackles the Camino de Santiago. You gotta love that. That's pretty brilliant. Marcia Shaver is somebody who's been working quite a bit in our community. Not only has she worked with high school students with art, but also with adults. The other thing that she has been incredibly active in is the Eastside Association of Fine Arts. And I found when reading her book, it was an incredible balance of one's personal journey with looking at a landscape and seeing how we really interact with the things that are around us and how it really can provoke us to change and be who we really, really want to be and be able to express that. And so please put your hands together for Miss Marcia Shaver. Oh. And sorry, I was a little remiss. These are also her paintings that are decorating the backdrop. They're very beautiful.
Hi. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I'd like you to take just a second to think if you could do anything that you want in the world, no matter how outrageous it seems, what would that be? And I noticed some of you have paper and pencil. If you could just write that down, just take a minute and think about it. And if you don't have a paper, just put it in your head. If you could do anything that you want to in the world, what would it be? Okay? Okay? Okay. So I walked the Camino de Santiago, which is a 550-mile trek across northern Spain. It's a medieval pilgrimage route. And it has been walked for 1,200 years by people famous and humble. I'm among the humble. And I walked it with an artist's eye because I think sometimes, many times, we see things that other people miss, like the beautiful play of clouds across the vault of heaven, or the sun glinting on a stream, or the beautiful texture in the chickens that are feeding and this little wonder of recycling in a Spanish village. And to set that down for me in pen and ink, these pen and ink drawings were in my backpack all the way across Spain. And to do that is indeed a meditation in itself. It is when you focus on something and you look at it really intently, it is a meditation because the whole rest of the world goes away. You're just with that one moment and that one thing, and that's very important to me. And I wanted to share that with other people. That was my big motivation for doing the book. But I set out to do the Camino because I had a window of opportunity. My family was raised. My parents are fine. They don't need care yet. I was relatively fit, and so I thought, I want to do an epic journey before it's too late because I don't want to be one of those people that waits too long to do the one thing that they've always wanted to do. And I wasn't sure that it was going to be the Camino, but then I thought, oh my gosh, they have restaurants, they have places to stay, men do your laundry, how good could it get, right? And so my friend and I leapt into the unknown, speaking very poor Spanish, and we met so many wonderful people. We had the best time, and we set a pace that allowed us to draw every day and to really appreciate all those things. And the lessons of the Camino were so many that you just couldn't help but be immersed in the spirituality when you're walking through that history. And so we met people, I thought this was so amazing. We met people literally from all around the globe. And we're in a hostel, as in youth hostel, pilgrims hostel type accommodations. So we're literally eating, sleeping, showering together with people from all over the world, and everybody was getting along. And everybody got that. And I wish that we could can that and find a way to take it into our everyday lives. That was just such a powerful thing. We found out that the difference between need and want are vast. And to be grateful for all those small things, all those simple little kindnesses that people give you, and that glint of sunshine on the stream. My book has 57 pen and ink drawings in it, done on location, and most of them finished at home, because I hadn't ever done pen and ink before I went, and cleverly I thought it would be, you know, I could take 5 pens, 1 pencil, and a notebook. Well, it's very time consuming. But the drawings are accompanied by a journal style narrative of everything that we experienced and learned, and all the incredible people that we met along the way. So I never thought I could walk 550 miles. I mean, I'm not a super athlete, right? But I found out that you can really do anything you set out to do. You have to set realistic goals, and at the same time be gentle with yourself in saying, well, maybe I didn't make it that far today, but it was further than if I'd stayed home. And just keep going. Just have that goal in mind out there, and just keep walking towards it, and eventually you get there. And I would like to encourage everybody to think about that you can do anything that you want to do. You can do anything you want to do. And that question that I asked you in the beginning, about 5 years ago, I was taking a kind of a personal growth class, and that was the question. And my answer was, if I could do anything, I would travel the world, I would hear people's stories, and I would draw their lives. And I just did that. So, thank you.
The next author who's coming up is one of the braver people to have written something that was science fiction based and come to a metaphysical store to talk about it, which honestly takes a lot of guts. Miss Ann Beam is here today. She wrote a book called Freedom Land, and it's absolutely it's so good. It came across my desk, and all of the books that we bring in, I read. And so after a while, if I don't pay attention, they all start to look alike. And so when I get something like Freedom Land, I'm like, oh, okay, where are we going next? Oh, teenage anarchy, perfect. Okay, let's go there. And so, it definitely tapped into. It definitely tapped into some pretty incredible threads through it, written through this perspective of 2 teenagers, which is something that I think as we grow older we forget about, because it's such a passionate time, and it's like, man, we're going to change the world, and as we get a little bit older, we're going to change the world to make sure the mortgage is paid. And so to be able to walk through, and really through these eyes of like not having anything to lose, but having everything to lose at the same time. And Anne had a really incredible voice, especially for a first-time novelist, correct? Yeah, although reading her, got a chance to read her blog, and just remarkable writer in her own right through her blogs and through this book. So I'm so excited to be able to introduce Miss Ann Beam.
I suppose it was a little bit strange to
come into the metaphysical bookshop with my little science fiction novel and say, well, but I guess to give you a little bit of background going way back for me, I come from a double set of scientist parents. I've got a biologist, educator mother, and a petroleum geologist for a father. And when I was 12 years old, I said, I want to be a writer. And they went, huh? Oh, okay. So I guess I've come from the school of writing has always just been a part of what I wanted to do, but it was really when I became a young adult, when I really started studying, that the whole world of how it fit into my life really changed. I went to college for creative writing, and Freedom Land, my novel, was originally my senior thesis. And then I ignored it, and I put it on a shelf, and I went, ugh, because the thought of revising it was absolutely terrifying. It was the first work of any kind of serious length that I'd done. But I moved out to Seattle, and I started just kind of shopping around for what the writing culture was like out here. I found the Richard Hugo House, which, if you don't know of its existence, is a mecca. It's in Capitol Hill. It does classes, open mics. It has a black box theater, and I just started surrounding myself with as many creative people as I could, and then I won a self-publishing contract in a raffle. It was a door prize, and I went, okay, universe, I'm revising the novel now. And I self-published this through iuniverse.com, which was a really interesting experience. I'd never done print-on-demand or self-publishing before. I went through the whole writing editorial process. I would be happy to talk about what that was like for me during the question and answer session. And I've come out with this book. And as someone said earlier, the trick is, when you get the book, even if you're published through a small press, but especially if you're self-published, it just doesn't sell itself. It's really frustrating. So I think, combining business with writing is extremely relevant. I just went to another conference at Richard Hugo House that was all about the business of writing and the business of publication versus publicity. Two different things. Publication is the nuts and bolts. You get this book. Publicity is more of this community-oriented process with connections, the whole internet as a community and as a part of your writer's platform, and all kinds of different things. So I will happily talk about that as well. I guess I will close by actually telling you a little bit about my book. Freedom Land is I can either market it as a speculative fiction dystopian novella, depending who I'm talking to, or a science fiction novel. And I think the most useless question writers ever get is, where do you get your ideas? You don't get your ideas, they get you. I think this has been touched on in many ways. It's sort of like, you are a conduit. If you open up and start writing stuff down, eventually you get lots of words, and eventually your word pile oftentimes becomes a novel, which is what happened with this. It's set in a near future in which everyone's computer, cell phone, iPhone, etc., has been combined into one device, which has been put in the back of your head. So everyone exists in this world that's kind of right here that you can, touch and move around. And people don't necessarily talk to each other very much anymore. It's kind of you're talking to faces that are floating in front of you, which is completely unlike anything we have right now. Just a few years before my dystopian future comes to pass, come on. And in that world are these two teenagers that are estranged friends and very opposite personality types, very opposite attitudes towards technology. One of them is kind of technology embracing, stereotypical, I just got out of high school and I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. I'm working this job, what? And the other one is very Luddite, very counterculture, very last hippie standing in a world of technology. And it's as much about them clashing as about their culture clashing around them. So I think the thing that strikes me most having written it is all of the echoes that remind me of it. Apparently, the first episode of New Futurama had this device thing that was like an iPhone in front of your face, and I was like, clearly this is an idea whose time has come. But in any case, I would love to, ironically, talk to you during the Q&A session, or at any time, feel free to talk to me about technology as a marketing tool for writing, because I've just learned a ton about that, and I have some really great resources. Thank you.
Okay, our next author is the founder of Community Threads, which is a nonprofit that is all about connecting our communities together through communication, through arts, through all of those really heart essential things. And her name is Trish Knox, and she's written a book called The Circle of Life. One of the things that if you've lived here for very long, you know that there's a really strong native presence here. We've got, I think, what, 22 tribes? I mean, it's something very similar to that are here. And so even just walking in downtown over there, you'll see like the long houses and things like that. And so that way of life and that spirituality is very present here. And in that sense of being honest, especially in a metaphysical space, we owe a lot to the native people here, not only for their wisdom, but for the fact that they continuously have to struggle to get their story told, and continuously kind of have to work through a institutionalized kind of way of putting them down. And so whenever I run across somebody who has that vision that we owe quite a bit to the people who were here before us, and is consistently working to bring a positive change, especially from a place where they have a voice, I always do a little dance. And it is incredible, especially having grown up off of different reservations and seeing the things that happen. So when Trish brought in her book, it was remarkable to see, because not only is it easy accessible, it also pays a lot of respect to where the wisdom comes from. So please welcome Miss Trish Knox.
Thank you, Sarah. It's great to be here. How many of you grew up in a family that talked about feelings? Who did more than walk around the periphery of life, talking about what we do and what we eat and what we did, but went into the center, talked about psyche, feelings, our soul stuff? How many had that experience? Excellent, way to go. I didn't have that experience, and that had a profound negative effect on my life. I hit bottom. I was a lost soul. At 25, my life turned around. And in my first meditation, Archangel Michael came to me, and my life shifted from then. And I've been on a psychic, metaphysical path ever since. I am founder and president of Community Threads. We weave the expression, education, and celebration of community. We have concerts, classes, and events that promote peace within oneself, with each other, and with nature. Nature is huge for me because it's feminine. It's what was missing. It was my missing half. And can you imagine our world that's missing its other half? So in my journey, turtle and salamander were one of the first totems that came to me, and so turtle was big medicine for me about 20 years ago. So I listened, went into that sacred feminine place of stillness and listened, and I eventually started to teach a class to Native elders and youth called Circle of Life, Mapping One Story. And it's a process of starting in the east of childhood and springtime, going to the south of adolescence and summertime, west of adulthood and sunset, and the north of elderhood or winter, or when I teach children, the north is one's current age. So that's a circular flow, and we find it in so many instances in our life. Already a couple of people have talked about the full circle. if we listen, if we feel with our whole body, we know that that circle in our cells, in our atoms, in our chakras, the moon, the sun, the cosmos, it's just part of who we are. It's a sacred space. And on the back of my book, there's a quote: "The circle is an ancient and universal symbol of unity, wholeness, infinity, the goddess, and female power. To earth-centered religions throughout history, it represents the feminine spirit or force, the cosmos, or a spiritualized Mother Earth, and a sacred space. Gnostic traditions link the unbroken circle to the world serpent, forming a circle as it eats its own tail." So, Circle of Life, Mapping One's Story, is an activity book that accompanies my class. It's a whole brain body book. I call it a whole brain body because I am not at all left brain, and I wanted to honor the right brain, thank you very much, the nonlinear way of being. So whole brain body means we use our left and right brains, our logic and our intuition. We use our imagination, which comes from that still place deep within and bubbles up to consciousness. We use our senses, because I encourage people not just write and draw about the outer periphery things you did, but get in touch with your senses of how it felt, how it tasted, how it smelled. Go back to those lilac trees of your childhood, the backwoods or the river, or even the basketball court that maybe you played in if you grew up in a city. And then beyond that is fine motor muscles. So it's a whole brain body experience. So I have a story about Turtle. Baby Turtle is lost in space, as I was. And Father Son lifts Turtle on a light beam. And my son was Archangel Michael. He lifted me and placed me in a new place for sure. And then Turtle travels the 4 directions and discovers the wonders and mystery of the earth. And I have had that experience over the past 37 years. And then is transformed into Turtle Island. And that I can relate to through my own transformation as to where I am now. So the part of this journey in writing this activity book was finding the right illustrator, and that was quite an experience. I had designs, I had images and feeling of what I wanted the pictures to look like, so I wrote them down or I drew them, and I'm just not an artist, so I found an artist who I felt did honor the enchantment that I wanted to express. So we have Turtle and the sun and then Turtle Island. And here's a poem by Black Elk about circles, and other quotes about circles from Albert Einstein to Copernicus. And here's the map. This is what it looks like. Very simple, but it's amazing. Every person has a different story to tell because each one's unique. The children have fun because I can tell them how special this is their circle of life. This is what makes you so special. I was at the Seafair Indian Days powwow this last weekend, and it was so fun having kids lined up in front of me, just letting them know how special they are. And what's amazing and heartfelt is when I work with, I was at the Puyallup tribe, worked with some of the women. One woman walked up, she couldn't even start. And I talked to her a little bit, and she almost started to draw. She said, I can't. My folks were really strict. And that's coming up a lot with Native women. There's been a lot of abuse in their life, and they can't even begin, but I'm encouraging them that this is a healing journey. If you can write it and release some of that energy and get it to move, you can begin the healing process. So it's rewarding because every student, every participant is different. It has a unique story. So I have 4 circles that people can use. And if you're using your whole brain body, you can do this anytime and it'll be different because it's that psyche. You have so much richness, so much, gosh, what would be the word for the soil under our feet? It's just permeating with blessings and teachings. Thank you. Thank you, Vivian. Glad to see you here. And then what it turns out to be is a mandala, a very artistic mandala. And so I have some information about the mandala, which is multicultural. It's honored all around the world. And then we end with a poem called Her Story, or Her Story, rather than His Story. And if I have time, I'd like to read it. I am looking for opportunities on radio programs so that the elders that I work with can tell their stories. Our indigenous people have so much to give in way of their knowledge of the land, if they aren't too brainwashed by white culture and Catholicism and Christianity. I have been scolded by an elder for using the word magic in relating this book. So I walk carefully, a little more carefully now. And, but there are so many elders that have so much richness to share. So if there's anyone that has a radio program that might be interested, do I have time to read my poem? Yeah. Real quick. Her Story. I love Mother Earth so much. That's where my passion is, to honor her. Mother Earth turns, a day begins. Mother Earth cries, a flood moves. Mother Earth shrugs, a valley carved. Mother Earth fumes, a mountain grows. Mother Earth loves, life is born. Mother Earth shifts, a season awakes. Mother Earth blinks, a civilization gone. Mother Earth flies, an orbit patterned. Mother Earth spins, a galaxy danced. Mother Earth turns, a day is done. So take time to honor our mother. And I know we do because we're women. Thank you.
Our next author took a genre that's not very easy to write either. I have always loved young adult novels because I think that they have such a truth to them, much like I was talking about with Anne's book. There's an emotional freedom that kind of goes with reading them because you get to delve into those emotions that as adults we kind of put a little bit of a cap on. When this book crossed my desk, it was great because it brought all of these things that we carry in the store and then this great sense of adventure. And in that young adult kind of way. And when I got a chance to meet Marsh, who's the author, I was just like, oh, this lady's awesome. I'm so glad she's a part of our tribe. So please put your hands together for Marsh Rouser, the author of Guardians of Innocence.
This is not the kind of thing I usually do. I usually like to stay in the background. So this is difficult for me, but I'm going to give it a try. I don't think there are any coincidences. Oh, okay. Thanks. I don't believe there are any coincidences in life. I think things happen, and because they're supposed to happen, may have called the law of attraction, whatever. I knew I was always going to write a book. I just didn't know it would take me so long to do it. I started a book 7 years ago, mystery, supernatural. Everything I do is kind of supernatural. And I had to self-publish it. It didn't sell that well, even though I got raves about it. How do you do it? How do you do it? Well, everyone asks me that, and I always feel like I'm being channeled. I don't know another way to describe it. I sit down and I start typing and everything starts flooding in, and you call it the right brain. And it just floods in and I can't go fast enough. And come up with about 350, 375 pages of what I have to say. My first 3 novels, like I said, they were mysteries. They were family sagas about this one family. And the mafia and supernatural, and I threw everything into it, and everyone seems to like it. I love fantasy, though. So I've always wanted to do fantasy, and I said to myself, I can never do fantasy. I just can't get to that place. J.K. Rowling, forget it. I could never compete with that. And so I started thinking about it, and I have to visualize. I write by visualizing, like it's a movie. I have to see it. And so I said, well, I can't even come up I can't even come up with the name of the book. So what am I going to do? So I came in here, and Sarah doesn't know this. And what I did was I walked around and started looking at the names of books and looking at different things. What am I going to name my book? What am I going to name my book? I wanted fantasy realism. I didn't want it just to be fantasy. I wanted it to be something different. And then I saw The Guardian. She had a book that said Guardian something. And then I walked around, and there was a book, something about innocent. And my book is named The Guardians of the Innocent. And so what this is about is, let me just tell you this one thing that is really woo-woo and really strange. I went to a fair in Seattle. And during that fair, there was an antique shop that was having, before I could even have a concept of the book, there was a place where they were selling these different antiques. And there was a statue of an African-American woman holding a baby. The baby was bronzed, her face is bronzed. She was so beautiful. And I thought, I have to have that, I said to my friend. I've got to get that statue. And it was on sale. And it was like $12. And I thought, oh my God, you know, and then I brought it home and I said, where am I going to put this? You know, it is so beautiful. And everyone that came in, I'd say, look at this, isn't this beautiful? And then all of a sudden I started thinking about what I was going to do with the book, how I was going to make the book. And I started coming up with something very different. It's fantasy realism in the fact that these things and episodes he goes through, he's a warlock, what he goes through could be real, except that he is a warlock, and none of it can be real. So this is about Seattle. This warlock is from Seattle, and as far as I know, there's a lot of witches and warlocks in Queen Anne, because I put them there. So he's a rebel. He's not the kind of person who wants to be doing anything. But on the day, 3 days before his 17th birthday, he finds that he is a warlock. Never knew that his family was into this or any of the churches. And he can't, and another thing is, I made him a Christian. I went totally over the edge, and I was told I'm going to hell. But I'll just read you the little bit of the back of the book. First, I'm going to read you what Albert Einstein said. Reality is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. On the surface, Ryan Nash appears to be your average 17-year-old spoiled American with a passion for his girlfriend Ashley and his motorcycle. He has no reason to suspect that on October 31st, the eve of his 17th birthday, he will go through a rite of passage. And in that transient moment in time, his physical appearance, his DNA would go through dramatic changes. His biological existence will go far beyond the typical human concept. Although remaining mortal, he will possess the soul of the human condition with the DNA of a superhuman with magical power, a dangerous combination. The idea of having more than one DNA has been characterized as folklore. Ryan will become a reluctant warlock who is destined to follow in the footsteps of his family's legacy, and his life as he knew it would change forever. He will become a distinguished guardian like his father before him. As a warrior, his mission will be to track and save abducted, lost, and victimized children. I made 5 guardians coming from 5 different countries. One is from Africa. Here's where the woo-woo comes in. I have dedicated my book to this African named Oma, a courageous crusader. This part is real. If you believe there are no coincidences in life, you will understand our chance meeting. Several weeks after I completed my novel, I met a woman from Vancouver, Canada, named Barbara. Barbara, an advocate for children, went on a mission to Busia, Uganda, where she was to meet up with a young man named Oma. Barbara described him as a charismatic and determined young man who has made it his mission in life to save the children who roamed the streets of Bosnia. Children orphaned by the death of their parents and those abandoned by parents who could no longer care for them. Alone and with little recourse, their only means of survival and their only meal is retrieved from the local garbage dump or by prostituting themselves for food. In many cases, they are being abducted and sold as slaves. Oma is an educated and devout Christian who struggles to bring humanity to the children of Uganda. He is a true guardian of the innocent. So I heard from Oma the other day. We keep in touch through email. He has never, ever asked me for a dime. He knows I'm writing the story. I told him what I had put in here about him, and he felt humbled, he said. So the other day he emailed me and he said, "How is our book coming?" And I told him, if things change, if this ever made it, if this ever made big time, he's looking to build an orphanage. He himself has adopted 5 children, he's single, and built a home for them. So I told him if things ever change, I would give him the $37,000 he needs to make this happen. So that's it. Oh, good. I didn't think so, but here's the book. Anyone is interested, and it's quite amusing. The young man in the story, like I said, he's a rebel, and he has a girlfriend, and he's been told he cannot marry anyone but a witch, and losing Ashley is not an option, but she's starting to worry about why he's away a lot. He hears children through crying. He is super sensitive. He is psychic. He's a hunk. He's blonde, blue-eyed, he's gorgeous. And he also is humble. He doesn't want this. He doesn't want to do this. But he was bred to do this. And so he has to, because this is what he hears. So there's different episodes where the first time it happens to him, where he hears a child crying, the child had been abducted and is in Seattle. And he transports to that area and sees the child. He's supposed to wear a mask. He's supposed to watch himself because he can't be known. And so he sees this child, and he wasn't in the position because it was his it was the first time he had been made into a warlock. And he was so confused of what to do, so he took on a ghost-like image to the child. And the child was kind of frightened, and he said, "Well, why are you here? You're gonna save me." The kid was huddled in the corner with a dirty blanket on him. And he said, "I'm calling the police. Don't worry, we're gonna save you." And he says, "Why don't you save me?" And he says, "I can't right now." So he transports back in his mind, in his visualization, gets shocked, and tells his father what had happened, and this was his first time this had happened. And his father says, "Okay, well, let me see what they have is, there is a colony of these people." And so what he did was called the detective, who was also a warlock, and they went to get the child. And so when they interviewed the child, they said, weren't you frightened? Weren't you afraid? And he says, "No, because an angel came to save me and told me I was going to be all right." So he does these episodes in there, and he morphs from 17 years old overnight into a 21-year-old. And they call that latent puberty, and they get away with it. So if anyone's interested, the first time I walked in here, and I was feeling kind of bad, knowing what am I going to do with these books? I just said, "You don't make any money." And I walked in here and thinking, I just want it out there. And Sarah, I said to her, "I was wondering if you would take this book," and I was very sheepishly, and she said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "Oh my God." So, but that's the story. Thank you.
Okay. The next author, and the author that's going to conclude this 10-minute kind of talk about their books and their process before we start the question and answers, is a really incredible lady. I've gotten a chance to meet her a couple of times, and she has worked with Heather quite a bit on some different things, and Heather always has this like, got to hang out with Dina, she's really amazing, and I'm like, yes, that's perfect. And so Dina Marie has written a book called Our Energy Matters, and she is a local hypnotherapist and Reiki practitioner, and she will be doing a class here on August 4th, and which is a Wednesday from 10:30 to noon. And it's going to be $8, and it's going to be working with stones and kids and parents, and it's just going to be a really good time to kind of come in. If you if you haven't had any experience with stones and working with energetics before, that's your lady who you want to kind of connect with. So please put your hands together and welcome to Miss Dina Marie.
I want to say thank you. This is the most, wow, I just was invited like 3 days ago, and this is the most beautiful thing. I was going to cry, but I'm not going to. Thank you for letting me be here. I wrote a book called Our Energy Matters, and like everyone else, this came from Spirit by accident, and it's still evolving into more than it started. It started as a kid's game 20 years ago when I started collecting rocks. And I was afraid to come out of the closet because I love chakras and I loved crystals. So I kept it in my home, and I watched the neighborhood kids, and I started reading their rocks. And then my kids grew older, and the teenagers hung out at my house, and they'd get rock readings. And now my children are 26 and below, so I have read, I want to say thousands of kids. The cheerleading team, now I'm reading boys. I later on became a hypnotherapist, put my rocks in my office. It was a spa. So I started doing rock readings. I didn't have any clients, no hypnotherapy clients. For about 3 months, my husband said, maybe you should start writing, a book. So I wrote the book about halfway through, and then I got clients, and I'd read all these people. So I started doing crystal readings. That's what I called it back then instead of rock readings. People started getting better. So here I started doing guided imagery, Reiki, and the chakra readings. And gosh, I have these great stories. So 4 years later, I thought, well, I'll finish this book. And so I put some of my clients in here. And one of my clients, God bless all my clients. I get to have them as friends now. They're having babies. Their kids are doing rock readings with me now. But she said, you need a cheat sheet. So I came up with this cheat sheet at the back of the book. This cheat sheet will eventually now be a game for kids, making cards. I have a chakra man that I do readings at fairs. I read police officer, firemen, bikers. I mean, Harley bikers. And so everyone's getting their chakra tune-ups and their readings. They're going off with their chakra prescriptions. And what I'd like to do real quick is just show you how it works. So when I do a reading, I can tell if their crown chakras are open because they'll look up. So everyone gets these ideas, or they have intentions, right? So that's your crown chakra. I look up, oh my God, I'm gonna write a book. I can see it, right? So I start painting pretty pictures right here in my head, and then I wait for the synchronicities or the inner voice to tell me what to do. Then I use my voice. I have this great idea. I'm gonna do this, okay? Then your heart, you put your heart into it. When you put your heart into it, all of a sudden this power chakra comes in and you act on it. So you get on your computer, you start writing every day. Then, this is the part about the book that I had lots of issues with. You have to ask for help, okay? So this orange chakra is when I give my baby to another person, and that was really hard for me to have people read this. I didn't have help with the editing. I mean, everything fell apart when I got to my orange chakra. So when we have an idea, we visualize it, we express it, we put our heart into it, we work on it physically, and we ask for help. We manifest it with the red chakra, and then we have something tangible, physical. So if I have something physical, then guess what? All of us right now in common, we have to go back to the top and figure out what we're going to do with this physical item, right? And it's over and over again. So the first thing I do, I have an idea, I pray. I say, dear universe, drive. So then I'll get a synchronicity with that third eye if I stay in the present moment. If I worry or I think I know what's best for my book, I always stop. Nothing happens, the phone doesn't ring, and I don't go anywhere. If I have fun, I get to show up here. Okay, it's magic. I did use that word, sorry. But it is magic, and this is a magic wand. Your chakras are magic wands. And if you're led by spirit and your heart's open and it's in it, then you have to, it's kind of like that free-falling thing. You get up and you talk to people and you're all afraid. But you do it. You show up. It's like getting on the dance floor. And then you have to be in a community or a tribe, which is really where I'm at right now. I'm around the coolest people, and I just don't attract anybody but cool people. And the universe knows what that means. Open-minded, works together, so that's why I'm here magically. But again, we get to that root chakra, which is basically when we get something we've manifested, we still have to keep going through. And what the book is about is we get blocks, childhood issues, you know, whatever happened to us in the past. I have past life stuff that happened. So deservedness was really hard for me. So years I had ideas, but did I ever act on it? No, because I didn't think I deserved to be an author, you know. I didn't deserve it. Now I know I deserve it, and whatever I do is motivated by love. I have no problem getting on the dance floor. That's always the fun part. That's the physical part. It was asking for help. So like I said, I have midwives. They come into my life and they help me. They help me birth my baby, birth my ideas, and I love the OM baby. That is just the coolest thing ever. So I wrote this book. I love this book. When you have a block, you're frustrated. So what I try to do is give chakra prescriptions. People go out. It could be going outside, taking a walk. It's simple things. Buying flowers. Some of the first prescriptions were buying roses for yourself, and I had women that could not do it. So I do self-love, one-on-one classes, and the best part about what I'm doing right now is this is all going back to working with teenagers, and I teach them Reiki, chakras. I call it Chakra 101. They learn energy work, and these kids, they change, magically change overnight because they know this. It's all about remembering it, and it's just energy, and that's what we all are. So our energy matters, and it did come from above. It didn't come from me. This is not my book. This is my life purpose, and I would feel like crying because I just feel very, very happy to be. We had a coffee shop in Snohomish, and Wired and Plugged. It did not make it. It broke my heart. So I am so happy to be here. Also, I give, my grandma came through. It's her story about an angel that came to her when her baby passed over, and it's free, and I have a lot, but if I don't have enough, email me and I'll send you one, but this book rocks too. So anyways, thank you for inviting me. I love being here.
First of all, I'd like to give another round of applause for all of the incredible women who have put themselves out there. Thank you for coming. We're going to take just a 5-minute break to get the panel set up, so please come back. All of the books are up at the front counter, so please feel free to peruse them, pick one up. Also, just to let you guys know, in Soul Food, our mission is to support local artists, such as Miss Jody Levy right here, who is an incredible artist herself. And all of the things that you see here are mostly done by local artists. So whether it's here or elsewhere, please think local, think of your community, support community, and yeah, so thank you. We'll see you in a couple of minutes. And Tori, my unofficial yet official person who reminds me, we have a newsletter that if you would like to know more about these events, if you go to soulfoodbooks.com, and there is a sign me up for you newsletters. We have quite a bit of events that involve local artists and musicians. And also I'd like to say that Eastside Women in Business also have a website, and it is ewib.biz. So thank you very much.
I'd just like to say, if you'd like to give some money to Marsh for her Bosnian people, to just go ahead and do it.
Check, 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 check.
Yeah, you can.
Yep.
The only thing is that if you know we can't see you. Oh, and so you want to be streamed. All right. If we could have all of the authors back this way. No, you were perfect.
There's another if you were staying in the center open. Check, check.
If I could have the authors come on up to this stage, I'm going to have you come up if that works. Come on up here.
Come on up. Come on up. Welcome back.
And do you want to be in charge of a microphone? Sure. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, come on up.
If you guys are.
Oh, we got 3 mics here.
Tina, can I give you this microphone? If you guys don't mind just sharing the 3 microphones between we're good.
I love everything you said.
This is the perfect opportunity to pick the brains of these incredibly remarkable women. So what I'm going to do is if you want to raise your hand and hopefully you're comfortable speaking out, and then we will get some answers from the panel. Is there anybody from you? Yes, please do.
Thank you for sharing. You all have spoken very much about how you've almost not even taken some responsibility for what has come through and gone into the books. But the reality is that it's your behinds that are in the chairs writing. And I'd like to know more, how long did it take? How much work did you put in a day? What was that experience, like a very physical experience of writing?
So I'll give you a little. Yeah, I'm up front. I tried for a couple of months working like I did in the corporation, 10 hours a day. After 2 months, I could barely walk. Don't do it. You burn out the right brain. You burn out the body. You have to have other activity than that one book, but you do. It is good to work on it every day, most days, because you're opening a part of you in your heart and your brain. But don't overdo it. Stay motivated, find out new things about it, but don't go crazy. And I write every day.
I have to say, because my husband's a scientist, he didn't know what he's getting into, but the more fun we have, the next day, doors open. And if you force things, it stops. So he's like, whatever she says, let's go have fun. We're dancing, we're going on a yoga retreat, but the more fun you have, the less force you have, or less force, the more fun, and the more childlike.
My illustrations just kind of flow out of me, and my writing actually comes when I'm meditating, or sometimes when I'm driving, when I'm not even thinking about it, or when I'm doing yoga, when I'm not forcing it. And then I have to quickly write it down, and I've got all these little pieces of paper in my purse and then I compose it and compile it. But that's how my process.
I feel like I'm going to be terribly unromantic. My writing process goes one of 2 ways. The ideal way is where I schedule a time to write. Be like, it doesn't matter what, I'm just gonna take care of the quantity, the universe can take care of the quality, sit down, outpour words, and feel happy at the end of the night. That's the ideal. The unideal is Me procrastinating, avoiding it, panicking about it, getting all worked up about it, ignoring it, being like, I haven't written in a week and we're sitting down right now, and forcing words, which I actually kind of like forcing words. It's like priming the pump. One practice that I do that when I stop doing it, everything falls apart, is called Morning Pages. It's Out of the Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, which I'm sure many of you may be familiar with, which is 3 pages every morning of total brain drain. And that's essential to my process because it just lets, the blank page is no longer there. You know, you've hit 6 o'clock in the morning and you've already written 3 pages. I don't love getting up at 5:30, but there you go. And that really helps take away the panic and the jungle drums is what I've heard them called, of like this panic in the back of your brain about, what am I writing? But I think when you can get past that, that's great. And if you can't get past that, you take a walk. And sometimes when you take a walk, an entire plot of a novel pops in your head, and you just kind of have to roll with it from there.
Oh. So I have a guide. He's on my back. It's the peacock. The peacock was the one who was the guide for writing my book, so I would ask. And my book is a series of journeys, so every time I wanted to do my work, I would ask for Peacock to come and be in the bow of my boat, and then I would just journey. I believe that each of us has an authoress locked inside, and you have a guide, and you can ask for that guidance. So mine was really exciting and really fun, and then when I got to the editing and that part, that was just, I mean, it was bliss. And it was bliss because just like I did this evening, I set the sacred space so that I would be out of the mundane and into that arena. And so I'm betting if you asked for a guide, you would get one. And then they just come with you, which, I mean, it's always nice to have someone at your back or guiding the way. So see if that works. Aho.
I don't write every day. I write when I get the urge to write, and then I feverishly write, and I don't put any commas, and I don't put any periods, and you can ask Lisa, because she helps me out with that. And because I don't care about any of that. All I care about is getting it down. When I hit a part that I can't think of something that might have me stifled, I remember the yoga master who said to me, if you're in a pool and you lose your ring, and you're in there looking around and splashing, you're never going to see it. Sit outside and wait till everything calms down, and if you look down, you will find it. And that has always worked for me.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
You know, I'm not really a writer, as I was saying, and I didn't intend to write a book. But here's the thing, I get ideas, you know, I have that creative mind. So the way the second book came about was, speaking about the first book, I had all these things to share and stories to share. So then I would get inspired when I got home at some point, you know, to just write them down and go to the computer and just write. So yeah, I would recommend, if you don't think of yourself as a writer, just write what you like to write about. And I still today am one of the writers at examiner.com. And I only pick topics that I feel like writing about. So I hear on the news, you know, something that I think, oh, people would like to hear this. And I'm the transition and grief examiner, so I can basically pick whatever I want, because everything's in transition right now, right? So it's pretty fun. Yeah, keep it fun, I agree.
The creative process is an evolving process. It takes time. And my experience was something shape-shifted, but something stayed the same. And you just listen to that and let it change, let it evolve. And edit. And that was a challenge for me because I'm not detail-oriented at all. It's almost like my eyes can't see those little parts. It's like I'm very whole brain, right-brained. It was very much a challenge. So I edited again and again and again. And I self-published, so that it was a challenge. This world is a challenge. I'd rather be out in space somewhere meditating, but this has grounded us, all of us, who tend to be spiritually oriented. So it's really good to manifest that. Thank you for the chakra energy. So I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. Okay, so I have a different answer. It took me a year to finish the drawings. And I hadn't done pen and ink before I went on this journey, and so I had no idea how incredibly detailed that media was. But taking a year to finish the drawings was so good because I got to think about, in a really, really positive way, in a really positive, nice space. You know, you're sitting on your deck and you're going dot, 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 dot. But you get to think about all the experiences you had and what they meant to you. And I got to process all that over a year's period of time. So when I did the writing, it was fast. It was, you know, like 2 months. So.
It's a very challenging, I'd like to say and be very real about it, it's a very challenging process, and it takes a long time, especially when you have a toddler. It took me 2 years. Yeah. But when you're passionate about something and you're meant to do it, you will finish it.
Editing, and having it's hard, but hand your baby off and have everyone read it. You don't have to, don't change it for them. But yeah, my son read it when I published it, and he's like, you misspelled this, this, and this. And I'm like, ah! So he was like 14.
If anyone is looking for a jump start to their process and they're interested in either script writing of any type or noveling, there are 2 national programs. One is National Novel Writing Month, which is November, which in the Seattle area is the highest participating city in the world because we all know what it's like in November. And they're both sort of just like fun challenges. The National Novel Writing Month is write 50,000 words in a month. It's all quantity, all just letting it flow through you. No worries about quality. And then Script Frenzy is in April, and it's 100 pages of script, movie, comic, or play. I did National Novel Writing Month last year, which is the seed of, or word pile, if you will, of novel number 2. And it was really, really fun, and it was a good way to blast through those blocks of panicking about writing, because when you have a certain word count that you have to get to by the end of the day, it helps.
I want to add just one thing. When I answered your question, I was speaking about a right brain business book that I didn't want to write. When I write metaphysical books, I don't write them. They write me. I am in an altered state. All the words came in. I didn't change a single word. I had someone check spelling, but I didn't need to change the grammar. I would like to have changed some of the words, and I went in and tried to change them. And I said, when you're in a meditative state, they come in right. And the second part is, I was meditating 2 or 3 hours a day. You cannot do that and not have books come in. I don't think it's possible. I actually don't.
I went through Book Publishers Network in Bothell, and they have editors and cover designers and all kinds of people there to help you through the parts that you need help with, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want them to do and what you want to do yourself. So that was how I did it.
There's a wonderful resource called Dan Pointer, and he's all about self-publishing, and will, if you're detail-oriented, which I am not and wasn't, and he will actually walk you through the process. And then there are any number of printers out there who have resources as well. I started out with a Granville Island Printing in Vancouver. And learned a lot from them. They weren't eventually who I went with, but I did self-publish because you can wait a long time for Bear & Company to get back to you. And And I understand that, but you know, I'm impatient. I'm not a waiter. So and if you put in self-publishing, tons of stuff will come up that you can resource.
I'd like to add to what she was talking about Book Publishers Network. Sharon Hara actually teaches a class through BizNIC, if anybody's members of BizNIC. That was very useful for me. It's a free event at Mosaic Coffee House in Seattle. And I think is it a 6-week course? 6-month course? It's a long course, and they meet once a month, and that's incredible. It's very useful. I decided to self-publish because I wanted to know the whole process. And so I'm really happy that I did. It does have pluses and minuses. I definitely want the next books, the next 3, to be published because I want to have another baby. It is very time-consuming. It's taken almost longer to do the self-publishing than actually writing and illustrating the book. That's where most of the energy has gone into. It's huge, very huge. So it's up to you if that's something you want to take on because you want to learn that process and go through it. I've also been told that you have less than 5% of a chance to get a publishing deal if you don't have any experience. So I never tried to get published, but I was told if you self-publish and you get your book out there, then you approach or hopefully get approached by a publisher, then your project actually has legs. And if you can sell a couple thousand books, then the publishers go, oh, she's really got something, and then they'll pick you up. So that's what I am hoping for.
Because my book is an activity book and accompanies my class, I did something a little different. I just published it through my nonprofit. You get an ISBN number on the internet. That's easy to do. My family has a printing business in Tacoma, Burrell Printing, and so they printed it for me. So it was simple after I went through all the, what do I do, what should I do, not knowing, but I took the easy route and the very least expensive route. Burrell, Burrell Printing in Tacoma.
And I started with the Orr's Angel book just to stumble through it, and it says angle on the back. So anyways, so I knew about the angle. So it's a free book, but it was a way to get through the whole process. And if you have a black and white book, it's much cheaper. I had chakras, so I had to use color, and they taught me. It was Snohomish Publishing, and I have lots of friends going through, and Roy Holman, and I've got some cards that just came through, so all my friends are going there, and they checked the price. It's much cheaper, but they helped me a lot. And they said, well, if you do this, this, and that, you'll save $3,000. So it took me a lot longer to put, what are those pages you put all together? And anyways, I forget what they're called now. But it was, you pray for help, and it kind of just comes along, and it could be a stranger giving you advice, and you're like, wow, that's exactly what I needed. And a Mormon made my angel pictures, and he's like, Dina, I don't believe in any of this stuff, but I like you. So I needed a person to do the graphics and all that kind of stuff, and they just fell into my lap. I didn't have $4,000 or all the extra money, so do use your angels. It does work. So.
Yeah, that kind of manifesting really worked for me too. And I might mention that Discover You has at least one, if not 2 or 3 classes, only like one-day classes, where you can get quite a grip on what you need to do for self-publishing, and a thin book that has people have written on. I can't think of the authors or people right now, but they travel around and they talk about self-publishing. And the key is to get a really good cover and a really good title, because sometimes the title and or the cover will clinch it or not, so ponder that.
Along with that, I would avoid single-word titles that are also the name of a major motion picture. Admittedly, that Freedom Land, the Samuel L. Jackson movie, came out after I'd already chosen the title and had a rough draft, but it happens. I published through iUniverse.com, which is part of a sort of mega conglomerate of print-on-demand services, including Ex Libris is another one of them. And I did it because it was free, or at least the publishing package was free. I later paid for editorial services and such like, but and it was a mixed bag. There was a lot about it that I liked. I liked some of the editorial services that I got. It was not as personal, I feel, as going to like the Pacific Northwest Independent Editors Guild, I think is what it's called, or having more of a hand-picked editor. And I knew my own cover designer, so that worked out well. But overall, I think there's probably a cheaper option, but if you're looking for a lot of guidance and a lot of options in terms of how much guidance you can get, it's a decent way to go.
And Google the name over and over and over again. Make sure it's not somebody else, like Our Energy Matters. It's just some electrical company or something, so I'm good. But you want to make sure you're not writing a book and it's not going to be Googled.
I want to say one thing about the name. If the name comes from the heart, that's the best thing to fly with. The Gift, I'm sure there's many books named The Gift. There's not many books named The Gift, A Sensual Journey into Personal Alchemy, so that saved me. And it is a sex book. I forgot to say that. I'm 65, taking in a channeled tantric sex manual that I have no interest in doing, and it changed my life. And it wasn't my option to use that title. It was given. So if you've got one, find out who else has it, but also, like, my company's name is Parallel Universe. So my real website is not rightbrainaerobics.com. That's separate. That's corporate. It's parallel-universe.us. That name, Parallel Universe, is a lot of places, but that's the name I was given. So that name, just as you were saying, the name is there. Right Brain Aerobics went into a corporation for training because it was called Right Brain Aerobics. And I didn't name it. It came in the 2 hours of meditation. They said, oh, use this.
Yeah, I was going to use the Art of Crystal reading. Don't put crystal oil. Now it's mainstream with our energy. So, I mean, Art of Crystal reading, and then I thought, well, I'll just wait till something else came. And that, it says Art of Crystal reading under it, but now I can go anywhere and say Our Energy Matters. I mean, everybody knows what energy is, right? We talk about it on the news. It's mainstream, so I was saved.
Another thing you hear over and over again is no matter how you publish today, you're going to have to help in the marketing process. So know that you're probably going to need a website if you're at all web savvy or interested. And the more partners you have in your business, this is one of my regrets. I've had friends and people who even sold my books for me, but I don't have business partners, and I'm going to be looking for them shortly, or I already am. And the more, you have people who are in alignment with your work and who are supporting you. Somebody mentioned, somebody who's after you to write it all the time. Just find those people who will be good coaches, mentors, just good buddies to encourage you. That's so important and helpful. Don't do it alone, because it is a lonely task. You're on your own, kind of, but make sure you get a community around you. That'll really help.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, as well as community. Your daughters, your sons, your friends, their friends, your babysitters, your son's teacher, anyone that can help you. Pass your work on, have them help you, have them give you feedback. It took a whole community to do my book. I couldn't have done it alone. A lot of support. Any more questions? Yes.
I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because it's just like, it's like oxygen. It just kind of happens.
I call it my obsession.
It's my obsession as well. Passion. Purpose, passion.
And sometimes there is kind of a love-hate relationship. You have to just chill, get away from it for a while, let it go, because otherwise the obsession becomes worse, Yeah.
I wanted to give up too early. That was a very valuable lesson. I'd try on advertising. I did a radio show for a while, and I gave up. Now I'm on Whidbey Island, and I teach at Linya's, and I teach often. And the more often I teach, the more things come, and then more people come. And then one day Shirley MacLaine called me because of that. Wow. Those things begin to click. if you have, if you have fun at it, but don't give up. Keep on advertising, and also what you said about collaboration, you absolutely can make money. I'm living these few months to finish this because of money I made in December from a book that normally I wouldn't have made if it had been a publisher. I probably wouldn't have made that much in that amount of time. I didn't give up, and I had a partner. Get a partner. That's key. And the guide are maybe the most important partners.
And your family, like you said, my husband, when he supports me, like there'll be days I'm like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And then I get an email. Every time I think I'm going to quit, I get this wonderful, I cry, and then I go meet him and I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then my husband's like, we have a house full of cool people. I mean, all the time. I mean, you don't have anybody but cool people in your house. That's abundance right there. We dance and we have fun and we have little, that's what life's really feeds your soul. So every time I can't quit now. It's all over. I'm here. I'm here to stay.
I would just add that if you want to network and create lines of connection between you and on the planet, it's a blessing from Mother Earth to do this work together with others. Like tonight, just think of the energy, the positive energy we're putting out. So if you want to be part of that network, write and meet others of like mind and heart. It's a healing in itself.
I guess I did want to say one more note about the healing part of your question. And I've heard this from a lot of sources, and just from my own experience, I totally agree that writing is more direct. It's like a more direct line to healing, even than therapy and counseling, and other types of healing forms. Writing, because you are doing the act of creating, I think is one of the most, not necessarily linear or logical, but one of the most direct connections with healing and personal growth.
I agree.
As they say, your life is your spiritual path.
I do want to ask too, for those people that had to leave, and for people that are watching from home, is it okay to pass out your information for those more direct questions?
Absolutely. And I'd be happy to talk with someone, sit down and talk for some money, then, but coach on self-publishing.
I know somebody had a question for me last time I was in here. I don't know if she's here tonight, but she wanted to know about writers groups, and I didn't have an answer for her, but I have a feeling you do. Do you know about writers groups where women can get together and write together?
I would probably send you to the Richard Hugo House to begin with.
Victor, right? Victor Hugo.
Richard Hugo. I don't know. He's a local poet. Richard Hugo. The website is hugohouse.org, hugohouse.org. So that's one place to start. And I think some of the reason why I don't have a whole bunch of women's writing groups in the top of my head is because they don't necessarily exist yet.
Maybe
let's start them now.
There are many. There are many called on Meetup. You just go into Meetup and you're going to meet up.
Oh,
yes,
there's
you
a good
will meet up with
resource.
a lot of
Okay.
people. And also, that's how I found a lot of different groups.
Okay, and for children's books, my advice, do not do print on demand. It just doesn't work because of all the colorful illustrations. It's too expensive. And that's what I did to start with, and I really regret it. Yeah. You have to get a really good printer. Yeah. Well, then it's really hard. Yeah, I was very challenged with that end. I actually asked the universe, please bring me a printer, please. And then I went to Louise Hayes' You Can Heal Your Life event that was here in Seattle. And I picked up one of her children's books, and it said printed by Imago. And I thought, I think I'll go with them. So I didn't end up having them printed in the United States, but I did get recycled paper, soy inks. They've been incredible to me, and a tree is planted for every book that is sold. So eventually, though, I would like them to be printed in the U.S. So that's hopefully, I'll find that connection for my next run.
Printnet.inc or printnetinc.com, or just look up Printnet. They do all
Oh, yeah, nice.
Is this a printer in the United States?
Yes.
Okay.
In Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah, I would love to talk to you after this. Yeah, and if anybody else knows a good printer here too.
This is less environmental probably, but if you are not yet hip to the espresso book machine, this is the coolest thing I have heard in a long time. What it is it's essentially a printing press for paperback books where there's an online database of book manuscripts in PDF format. You scroll down the list, you click the one you want, you hit print, and about 10 minutes later you have a paperback book. There are 2 of them in Seattle and a bunch nationwide. And the advantage of putting your manuscript on it is that you just have to head on over to your local espresso book machine and you can get it anywhere that has one.
Yeah,
That's probably not for children's books, though.
They actually do graphic novels and an amazing amount, I'm not sure about color, but an amazing amount of graphics. So Vladimir at Third Place Books is the dude to talk to.
Yeah, and I've heard there are like only 5 or 6 in the country, and 2 or even 3 are here. So Seattle's a pretty amazing place.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
up and coming.
And everyone should write a book. I mean, everyone should write one book in their lifetime, you know.
Yeah,
and,
there you go.
And keep it black and white, and
Keep
you
it
know,
simple.
yeah, and it's not that expensive. You put on your credit card, no, just kidding. Which you do, and I paid it off, and now my husband calls it our bank account, you know. So we have this money, and it comes in, but it's paid for. But it's the best. It is your chakras all spinning at the same time when you manifest something, and everyone has something to say. So that's your throat chakra, right? And if you're doing something with, it can be a manual. You can teach other people what you know. So
It's about sharing, isn't it?
it is. It's great. It's healing. You're right. Where'd you go, Lita? Oh,
Come on up here with us. Lita's got a lot to say. Come on.
We allowed ourselves 7 weeks, and we did it in 6, and then we had a week to go to the beach and process what we learned, and go to the spa. And when you're the perfume pilgrim, you know. We averaged 12 and a half, but our shortest day was 6 straight up, and our longest day was 20. So it was very, but it was every day. We only took 2 rest days. My feet really hurt when I got home, which is why it was no pain at all to sit there and work on those drawings. So,
Well, thank you, ladies, for being brave enough to put out those thoughts onto paper so that we could read it and enjoy it and delve in, and to hold a space for those of us who are really curious about authors and the process of writing books. And thank you for coming to Soul Food and rocking it on our stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. We love you. Own Baby loves Soul Food books.
And namaste.
yeah, I figured you probably need to do. Maybe they'll just come. Can I give